I'll just go ahead and introduce you, Gabriel Bloise from Chicana winery in Argentina. Yeah, so I guess we can just hop right into it. I kind of wanted to get just a background, like what is Chicana?
Okay, Chakana is an independent company that it was established in 2002. Originally, it started in Luján de Cuyo, Agrelo. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the wine regions from Mendoza, but there are mainly three valleys: the east of Mendoza, Central Valley, and Uco Valley. Luján de Cuyo is in close to Mendoza in the Central Valley. So we started here in Agrelo, which is a sub-region. And now we have vineyards here in Agrelo, which is organic, biodynamic, fully certified. And we have two vineyards in Uco Valley in Paraje Altamira, which is another very well-known sub-region. So all our portfolio is built up from those own states. We think it's very important to own the land. And I mean, since we practice organic and biodynamic, which for us is a key thing from quality, it's very important that you own the vineyards and you perform these practices to get the results.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, and then the Chacana name, most people ask, Chacana is a Quechua name. Quechua was the language for the Southern Hemisphere Aboriginal cultures. It means the Southern Cross constellation star. And most of the names for Chacana, as Maipe Reserve, are linked to these cultures. So we are very respectful of these people and their knowledge. And somehow, in our way of working, we recognize, their wisdom, and we try to act like them. Of course, nowadays, being technical and we study a lot, but we have a like big motivation to work naturally as they did, and to understand nature and relate to nature as human beings. So that's Chacana about.
That's great. That leads in perfectly to something I wanted to talk about, because you've really been on this mission to really make wines of place and wines that are, minimum intervention and things like that. So how did this journey of yours kind of start, like, switching over to all of that?
Wow, that's a nice question, interesting. And you told me if you want me to stop talking, because
no.
there's a lot to be told about this.
I'm all for rambling. I'm ready for it.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Look, I started working here in 2006 at Chacana. My background was more in bigger companies, multinational companies, where wine was taken as more like a commodity kind. My first nice thought when I started working here was that the boss told me, I want you to make the best wines possible and tell me what you need in order to achieve that. So it was fantastic, because we started the learning process that I didn't imagine it will happen, which included, every single consultant we wanted to hire to understand how things work. We got it. So we have worked with Pedro Parra, Claude Bourguignon, Alberto Antonini, and lots more. Alan York from the US, which was a lovely guy, and we still have him in our hearts. Then everything we needed was to start studying. So we were told, guys, you should study the soils. So we started digging holes and understand the soils. This was about 2007, and all changed when we started studying soils, because we understood how linked is the wine taste to the soil and weather conditions. And then we understood that we were not doing right. By that time, we used to have conventional management for a vineyard. So we used chemicals and we used yeast and we used everything. So we by 2011, we decided to turn we have been studying how to improve the soil because we understood soil was key thing for wine quality. so we decided to change these practices, and it all worked perfectly. I will not say it was easy, because in conventional you are used to solve problems with the powder, and in organic and biodynamic you have to prevent problems and work with nature to solve them. And then in the winemaking was incredible, because I realized that once you have a really good grape quality, you really don't need anything else to make wine from it. So you don't need enzymes. You only need maybe little sulfites. We have been exploring as well NSA wines, and we just launched 2 NSA wines that I hope get to the US soon. So we have pulled out every additive that is commonly used, and stabilized or fining agents. So our wines, I'm proud to say it, are only made with grapes and a little sulfites. And I think that's what truly represents place. I mean, that's the best way, as well as, for example, not to concentrate the wine more than it comes from the vineyard. You know, there are many techniques, especially within the 2000 and 2010. Argentina was well known, you know, for making really dark and undrinkable wines, I would say, because we used to saigner the wine like 30%, because the formula was, you know, concentrate the wine, add new oak to it, and that's your ultra premium stuff. So now we are pretty much respectful to the soil. So we don't saigner, we don't like, I mean, we work in the vineyard to get the balance, and that get exactly the right taste to wine. I mean, it's not diluted, but it's not inky, you know, and too strong. And it's amazing how these wines also represent much better the vintage, because I would say in the past, Argentina didn't show that much the vintage character, since the wines have been so much manipulated. So in the last 5 to 10 years, I would say that Argentine wine represents much more the regions and the vintages, which have been very different one from each other.
That's great. Are you seeing as a greater whole of wine production in Argentina that people are moving towards this, you know, following suit, if you will?
Yeah, you know, I'm one of those that my friends always make jokes to me, because I'm like very radical, and I hate people that says one thing and do other.
Sure.
One of those that gets sick when I'm in a stand in a wine fair, and I hear my Argentine buddy next to me saying, in Argentina, we're all organic because it doesn't rain. So I think organic practices and sustainability is in people's mind, but people haven't fully understand yet what does it mean. It's not just saying you do it, or it doesn't have anything to do with rain. Of course, we have to spray less the vines because it rains few, but organic management is a whole thing that you have to take care about fertility, about irrigation, about the microorganisms and biodiversity living into your vineyard, about having the right microbiological activity in your wines. So it's much deeper, and it deserves much more study and understanding. So I think people are, and also, you know, everyone claims terroir in their labels, but nobody actually takes care of it. If you make your wine with adjusting the acidity, adding yeast that will change the flavor, how can that show the terroir? So I think people are realizing that that is not right, and they should start changing, but it will take a while. And of course, there's always like we have like more the artisanal approach. You know, we feel more like we are vintners. We produce vines to make wine, but there's also a big industry that confuses a little bit everything with marketing, but they pursue numbers and making a lot of wine simple. So I think there will be like an industrial approach. It is always good that everyone is looking at organic as a good solution, because wine will be more healthy. But nowadays, with the organic standard, you can be very close to industrial wine. I mean, you can use almost any additive you want, as far as it is GMO free or stuff like that, as far as it's not a heavy chemical of synthesis. So I think it's good, but still we need time to decant, what is going on. But definitely there's a trend. Everyone here is asking for organic, or we are recognized as pioneers of this. So we get a lot of questions and opportunities to talk in seminars because we have done it already.
I want to talk about biodynamics a little bit. I think that's a word that people hear often, especially, you hear more and more nowadays, but I think a lot of people don't really understand what goes into biodynamics. So if you could touch on that a little bit, kind of how it relates to Chicana as well.
Definitely. I would say regarding biodynamic, everyone has their different way of seeing. I have mine, and of course Chicana's view, it's quite influenced by mine.
Sure.
There are many ways to approach it. If you want, I can compare very quickly the three things, conventional, organic, and biodynamic, because this will help the explanation. And as we were talking, conventionally, it's more like the industrial approach, where quality is taken more as a reproducibility thing, or standard taste, or standard patterns or numbers in the wine. Organic takes care about equity, so your food shouldn't be contaminated with any chemicals, or it can't have any residual. So the organic standards mostly control that you do not add anything that can leave a residual substance that will damage your health. And the important thing on organic is that the only way to produce these wines, or to produce food in an organic way, is accounting that there is an ecosystem working. Because in the conventional system, you don't care about the ecosystem. You feed your vines through the water you irrigate, and the soil is not considered important. Actually, it destroys the soil. This is the big complaint, which is against the conventional approach, that they exhaust the soils and kill all the biology on them with the practices in order to, let's say, explode the land in 20 years and get as much as they can from it. So organic approach is already sustainable because you need to create and to respect the ecosystem. Then if you want to do a plus, I think biodynamic is a plus of that, because it accounts the ecosystem. So you must be, and also if you want a certified Demeter or biodynamic, you must be certified organic first. They don't allow you to do it if you're not. But this is, so they include the ecosystem view, but it's like a little bit more difficult, because they like seeing your farm as a living organism. So you cannot bring things from outside. For example, if you're organic, you can use fertilizers as much as you can, as long as they are organic certified. So I can bring from the US a container of fertilizers and use them, as long as they are free of GMOs or free of chemicals. I will be allowed to use and will produce with that. But in the biodynamic, you can't do that. You need to create, for example, if you need to fertilize your land, you need to figure out a strategy to do something into your farm that allows you to bring fertility up from it. For example, you need to have cows to get the manure and to make compost. You need to plant other things to make that compost too. So what happened in Chacana is that in the last, I would say, almost 8 years, it changed a lot, because we had to create this living organism, and it worked fantastically. So this is one big difference from biodynamic, from organic to biodynamic. I would say that the other very big difference is the holistic approach. Organic, organic accounts ecosystem and biodiversity as key things to produce. but it is still a very traditional scientific approach where, for example, I have been educated the typical Newtonian science, which is isolate variables to study phenomena and understand it. Biodynamic approach is just the opposite. It's the holistic view. You need to understand the problem in the context. So if you want to solve a problem into your vineyard, you need to walk around and see how things interact, or what is going on, or why, I don't know, this leaf is showing certain problem, but in the context of the vineyard. You do not isolate variables. You need to understand what is going in the whole thing. Then I would say all of this in biodynamics makes you create an environment which helps like an immunologic system. I mean, taking a farm as an organism, as a living organism, makes it much more complex and self-sufficient, which is amazing. And in some places we're already achieving that in short period of times. And the quality is a big change. And there's also, of course, the bad press of biodynamic, let's call it like that, because every time I approach someone and I say we do biodynamic practices, and they say, oh, don't tell me, you bury the horns and dance naked against it, you know. And yes, there's the horn, and there's a whole lovely part of it, which has to do with interactions from with the land and the cosmos. I think we make jokes about things we don't understand, and I have to say I don't fully understand these influences, but it doesn't mean they don't exist. I mean, no one can deny that the moon influenced liquids or that influence the sea. So why, if the moon influences that, why Saturn cannot influence the trees? The problem is we don't know how does it work. Mm-hmm. So there's a whole calendar that is being developed for biodynamic people that helps you saying which is the best place to take care about these influences. For winemaking, I use the calendar a lot because the moon has a big influence on the wine. For example, when to rack wine, when to top up barrels, or when to steer the lees if you want to cause certain effect. So I think we embrace that part. In the vineyard, it's a little bit more difficult because we have about 300 acres of wine, of vineyards. So to adjust certain practices in certain days will be very difficult. But I still think that there must be an influence, and we will understand it. So those are more or less the differences. I hope I reply your question.
No, that's awesome. No, that is exactly what I was looking for.
One more thing, sorry. I think what I love from biodynamic as well is that it brings again the relationship between men and land, because the only thing that you have to make it work is to get involved into it, and as I said, walk in the vineyard every day to understand your problems, walk in the winery every day. There's nothing you can do buying a powder or a stuff that will fix your problems. So it brings up again what is called culture, which is the work for man. So it reivindicates the relationship between men and the land, which is fantastic for me.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about the wine that we're showcasing. So the Nuna Tetrada, blend of Tannat, Syrah, Cab Franc, and Malbec. You just talk a little bit about like what your theory about making this wine was.
Definitely, thank you. So as you said, it's a blend. It's mainly Tannat, and then Syrah, Cabernet Franc, and Malbec are smaller. This wine was the first wine that we create thinking about the soil. Nuna is the name of the vineyard. It means soul of the land, and this is a vineyard that it got the Biodynamic certification in 2016 vintage already. which means that we have been developing practices already for 4 years. So it's been biodynamic for a long time. And when we started this soil studies and this change of approach on winemaking, we realized that every single, I mean, no matter if you have a full block of Malbec, when you understand the soil, you can make different wines from small spots of the property. So this wine, what it tries to do is to mix the places we consider are the best from Nuna Vineyard. So this is there's a whole Nuna range, which is 100% varietals, Malbec, Bonarda, White. But for this, we decided to make a blend because there's a soil stripe, which is like a short profile that give us a little bit more texture and concentration. Also, the varieties you see involved, Tanat, it's a big variety for texture and keeping the acidity. So it gives freshness and texture. And Cabernet Franc, of course, no discussion about that. We wanted to do very short Malbec because I think there are too much Malbec-based blends. So if we make a blend, let's make it with a lot of other things, which are also beautiful. So what happened is that we pick all this type of vineyard that goes across 3 blocks, and we vinificate different amounts of Tanat, Syrah, and Cabernet Franc, and of course Malbec. And then we decide the blend that ages all together in a big foudre. It's very important in Agrelo. You know, there's Central Valley, Uco Valley, generally, and this is very generally. From Uco Valley show much more texture because of the soils and the weather. And in Agrelo, in our land, we have more roundness and more drinkable wines, but this is like an exception for it. So that's why we need to age this wine in this oak container. All the rest of the Nuna is kept in concrete vats, while this needs aging at least for 10 months. So that's it. The idea of this wine is to show a blend of the top soils of this land. And of course, this is all naturally made. So this is natural acidity, no yeast, no enzymes, no anything than sulfites. I think it's very interesting because Malbec, for example, for Agrelo, which is the most common, is of course it's an easy wine to taste, very round, very friendly. But I love Tanat from here because it shows, you know, almost a citric character. You can get some orange skin in this profile. The Cabernet Franc adds a layer of herbs. The Syrah here is amazing because also gives you some white pepper, and all those things together with the aging gives a nice and smooth wine. So that's the intention of this wine.
Yeah, it's got great balance all around. I mean, I think like the blue fruits are there, and like just kind of the subtleties, the nuance of like that orange skin that you talk about. But then the acidity is super balanced with the tannic structure as well. It's just really, really awesome wine. So super excited for everyone to get to try it.
Thank you very much. Glad you like it.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to keep you for too much longer. I did want to talk about, we just recently tried the Four Gatos Locos, and
yes, sir.
That to me is just such a cool project. What's kind of your ideas behind that?
Okay. Our ideas behind that is when we started studying soils, we were only based in Luján de Cuyo in the Central Valley, and then we discovered to ourselves Uco Valley, and within Uco Valley we think, and it's been proved, that Paraje Altamira and Gualtallarí are one of the top places from Argentina for wine quality, for wine texture, and from this unique character. So the Cuatro Gatos Locos project, it's fully based on Gualtallarí. So is this one of two wonderful places within Uco Valley. It's different from Altamira because it's a little higher elevation, very close to the mountains. Particularly the vineyard, the vineyard we own, it's in a special place where the soils have been developing a big layer of calcium carbonate through the time. So the character of this wine is like it has all the things from ripeness, full body, spices, a lot of fruit, but with an amazing freshness because the vines get more balanced there. So the ripening process is quite slow and the vines never stress. So this develop a kind of tannin that I cannot explain technically, I would say, but it's a wine that when you taste it is very ripe and full body, but it's very fresh. I mean, it has a freshness in the mouth that it's amazing. And to make this wine, we use the same principles. I mean, no intervention at all. This is only grapes put in a bottle. So no other additives or strange techniques. And that's why I feel free to say, these wines will tell you about the taste of the place. I think they are very representative because they are really untouched rather than pump overs and stuff. And again, it's a very careful work, avoiding not to over extract, because Gualtallari is so strong that it's very easy to over extract. So you can have a very undrinkable wine, and it's very difficult to extract just the useful things to get this lovely balance of texture and freshness. And also it's a matter of picking date. So the Cuatro Gatos Locos is a mix of at least 3 or 4 different picking harvest dates, which is also, I think, maybe the biggest improvement for us in this vineyard is still understanding the different spots and adjusting the picking time. And of course, every picking time has a different treatment in the winery. So the earlier will extract more, the later will be extract less. All this in order to make the best balanced wine. And of course, there are wines that need longer aging. So Cuatro Gatos Locos ages for at least 18 months, and smaller recipes, smaller vats, such as 500 little barriques instead of big foudre. So it's a different concept. Everything is adjusted to the place. For example, in Altamira, we do totally different things.
Sure. Oh, awesome. Well, thanks for coming on and talking with me today, Gabriel. I think people will appreciate all of the kind of the theory that goes into it. I think we're in a time where people are looking, like you said, people are looking for organic and biodynamic and, minimal intervention wines. So I'm super happy to kind of have you on to talk about a lot of that, because it has been it seems like it's been part of your core for a while now. So
it is. And I get passionate when I talk.
No, that's
so people
great.
always have fun with me.
No, that is great. Well, I really appreciate it again. Thank you so much. Do you have anything, any closing remarks or anything?
No, thank you. Just thank you I think this is important, communication. Very nice talking to you. Just ask the right questions to make me talk. So I really appreciate that, because nobody has that ability. Not everybody makes the thing so easy for me. I'm glad you promote our wines and you like them. So thank you for that. I think it's very important. It's big part of what we do is also what you do to help us, close the circle. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it. And I wish you the best of luck, from now on with all these situations.
You as well. All right, Gabriel, thank you so much.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Yes.
Bye-bye.